You are listening to the Empowering Working Moms podcast, Real Talk with Dr. Prianca Naik, a show to help professional moms in survival mode to take hold of their lives and thrive. If you're ready to take powerful action to create your best life, then this is the show for you. I'm your host, Dr. Prianca Naik, board-certified internal medicine physician and certified life coach. Now let's get to it and dive in. You are listening to the Empowering Working Moms podcast, episode number 45. Hello, thank you so much for tuning in today. I'm glad to have you here. Actually, I'm so happy to have you here. So thanks for listening. And I hope you're doing well. I know I am. I've had like a hoarse voice for a couple of weeks on and off, and my voice, I think, is finally back. So I'm grateful for that. And that means that I'm able to record this podcast today. So if you're listening to this podcast, you might be a high achieving type A mom, and you're probably exhausted, maybe even struggling with burnout. You've probably done all the right things. You have an awesome resume. You've checked the boxes for success, conventional success as we know it, right? But maybe you're not happy. But you really don't have to feel this way forever. Imagine a life beyond burnout where you have confidence, peace of mind, better relationships. And I know this is possible for you because it has been for me and my clients. With a little bit of work and not a whole lot of time, you can be out of burnout and truly enjoying your life every single day. Check out my free on-demand masterclass, 4 steps to overcome burnout, get rid of overwhelm, and finally get your peace of mind back. Link will be in the show notes. Check it out. You don't want to miss it. So I'm going to talk today about our perspective, the lens with which we see the world. And our lens and our perspective, they're so important because they create how we experience our reality, how we experience our lives. And it just reminds me of I used to play Super Nintendo Jeopardy. I loved Jeopardy and I memorized all the answers. And one of the descriptions was rose-colored glasses. That was the answer. What is rose-colored glasses? I don't know. I don't know what the prompt was for that. I don't even think I understood what that meant at the time because I was only maybe 10 years old or so, 10 or 11. And now I understand rose-colored glasses and realize that it means, putting a rosy lens on things. So that gives you a little context for what we are going to talk about today. This is one of my favorite topics, actually, and it's come up in a few of my coaching sessions, and I thought you would find it useful, or I knew you would find it useful. So lenses are how we see the world, how our lives are unfolding, how we experience our lives. And when we empower ourselves to control our lens, to change our lens, to work on our mindset, we increase our peace of mind, we have more energy, and therefore we're able to overcome exhaustion and burnout. One of the key components of burnout for high achieving moms like ourselves is really being in the thick of it, where let's say you have young children, you've got a high power career, there's so much going on. It is very easy to default to being overwhelmed and exhausted if you let yourself drown in it. And most people do. However, if we can start seeing our lives today from the following lenses, it becomes so much easier. So I'm going to give you 2 specific lenses you can use in your day-to-day life that will shift your perspective to really keep things in perspective, have peace of mind, and not have that modus operandi where you feel like you're drowning, you're in the thick of it, you're in survival mode. No, there's no room for that here. We want to get out of survival mode, okay, and into a better freaking life, all right? I will tell you a little anecdote. I have stressful situations going on all the time. And a lot of people come and be like, oh, like, I don't know how you do it. Like your life must be so hard. This is hard. And that's one thing I really don't enjoy people saying that to me because I don't think it's helpful telling me that things are hard. But what I will tell you is that no matter what comes up in my life, I know I can manage it. So I don't stress out about impending stressors. And I really use my lenses to make decisions and see things in a way where I have perspective. So I don't get sucked into negative narratives or adding extra layers of stress and suffering to what might already be a stressful situation. And that's why I'm teaching you how to do the same. So here we go. 2 lenses today. Lens number 1 is my future self or your future self. It's my 80-year-old self. So ask yourself what your 80-year-old self would do or what that 80-year-old self would have to say about any given situation. And this immediately gives perspective and maturity to a situation, right? Because we're so busy thinking that we have forever to live and we're in the thick of trying to make money and trying to rear our kids, feed them, keep them alive, all those things. And it's just easy to get lost in the day-to-day rut, the to-do lists, and allow all of that to make us miserable. So try this 80-year-old lens put it on any given situation and see how it feels. I'm going to give you a personal example of my own. My baby was sick recently, and my au pair, who's so wonderful, God love her, she had just started with me, and I was new to my au pair being my backup childcare, which of course, that's why she's there. And I had patients to see that day. Now, I wasn't sure if I wanted to take my daughter into the pediatrician yet. So, but I had a lot going on and I was trying to manage, my au pair's hours properly, meanwhile, take care of my daughter. And I'm sure you can imagine this exact scenario, right? You have definitely been there at one time or another. And again, people often say about these situations, it's so hard, which, okay, yeah, it's not easy, right? But I took my 80-year-old lens and I knew that this time in my life isn't coming back. I'm grateful for the backup childcare. And also, I was forced in a way to spend extra time with my daughter, snuggling, cuddling, reading her stories. And I was so grateful for that. And it was lovely in that way. I mean, it wasn't lovely that she was sick, but it was a gift of getting extra time with her. Okay. And so that is the 80-year-old lens. Because when we say, oh, it's so hard, not only is that, even whether it's true or not, that statement isn't helpful, right? And it makes us feel even more tired. So we add to our own exhaustion. What is the point of that? We're just making things worse for ourselves. So I'm just trying to show you, if you're not aware, that this is what's going on. Like, just be aware of when you're doing these things and catch yourself in playing into the negative narratives or how hard it is or how exhausted you are. Because the more we keep saying that to ourselves, the more we really feel it even more and more. Because these small things may seem innocuous, but they are contributing to your own sense of exhaustion and burnout. So I knew, of course, that this day was going to come and go, the one with my daughter being sick, and everything would be okay, right? And it's just a part of being a working parent. It is what it is. It happens to everyone. And I knew that, I had few things to juggle, including my new au pair, who was a huge blessing, and it was fine. Before I could stress, I had the wherewithal, the awareness to ask what my 80-year-old Prianca self would say. And she would say, life is large and long. This day is going to pass. You'll figure it out just like you always have, just like you always will. Enjoy the extra time with your daughter. Time and life are precious. And that's exactly what I did. But do you see how with this lens, this shift impacted my perspective and therefore impacted my day and ultimately my life? It gave me a sense of peace. It gave me gratitude. So I wasn't contributing to my own sense of tired, stress, exhaustion. Okay. I'm going to challenge you here and challenge you to commit to asking yourself what your 80-year-old self would say in any big decision that comes up where you're not certain or when you're stressed. She's older, she's wiser, she's calmer. And by taking her advice, you will be wiser and calmer too. See how I did that? Try it and try this lens on for size and let me know how it goes. Message me at Dr. Prianca on Instagram. My name is Prianca, not the traditional Indian spelling of Priyanka with the Y and the K. Just FYI. Now, the second lens I'm going to discuss is the one of the person who loves you, the lens of self-love. And self-love gets talked about a lot, and that's because it is a key component of peace of mind, ending exhaustion, ending burnout. Self-love is actually one component of a pillar in my program called self-empowerment because it's so important in this work. And really, I know for a lot of people, depending on their background, depending on their childhoods, self-love is a real stretch. But I think as mothers, we know how we love our own children and we love them unconditionally, right? And so taking how we love our children and transposing that on to ourselves. For example, what would you do if you loved yourself? What would you tell your child to do in this situation? Right? Because once you pretend to love yourself, and in this case, really fake it till you make it, really ask yourself questions. What would I do if? And you can put the lens of what you would want your child to do. And that really helps you in making difficult decisions. It really increases your sense of clarity. And I have a client story that I've mentioned, I believe, before, but a female physician was in a very tough relationship with her spouse, who is also a physician. They had two small children, and he was verbally and mainly verbally, but sometimes physically abusive towards her. And she put up with that because she didn't believe in divorce and she really wanted to stay married. So she tolerated behavior that she told me that she didn't even recognize who she was anymore, that she was surprised that she would tolerate such disrespect. And it was not a good example for her children. And we really started working on self-love. And through her work with me and loving herself, she eventually asked herself, what would I do if I loved myself? If I love myself, would I keep putting myself in harm's way? Would I keep being here getting hurt mentally and physically? And once she actually truly loved herself, she decided to physically get away from him and she moved out. So that is the power of self-love. And I'm not saying that you have to have such an extreme situation whatsoever. Okay. Self-love can be as simple as, if I love myself, what would I say to taking on an extra call weekend? And if I love myself, I would say no. So you say no. Similar to last week's episode when we talked about boundaries, but it's a similar concept where you really treat yourself with love and care. You treat yourself with kindness. You have a kinder voice to yourself. And I know this might sound corny because when I first started learning about these concepts and practicing them, they felt lame to me. I'm being honest about that. But with time, I learned that pretending even or being aware of the mean voice in my head, the critical voice, and not playing into it and really trying to give myself some compassion for being human in my, not best moments, my imperfect moments, my mistakes. That really created so much inner peace, right? And that is really what we're craving. Inner peace is our ticket out of burnout, right? So that's just something to keep in mind. So the next time you have a big decision where maybe you're spinning in confusion, ask yourself, what would you do if you loved yourself? What would you tell your child to do? Put the self-love lens on it. And believe me, you will get so much clarity so quickly. You're going to have peace of mind a lot faster than anything you've probably tried before. And I know I'm guessing, right? I don't know, but I'm guessing you've tried yoga, therapy, self-help books, books on tape. Maybe you have a long stack of books on your bookshelf that you want to read and you just haven't gotten to it. Am I right or am I right? But these methods will get you the results, the peace of mind that you want, that you've been craving. Try these things. Let me know how it goes. You can find me at Dr. Priyanka on Instagram and really shoot me a message. I would love to hear about how this is helping you. And if you want to dive even deeper, check out my free on-demand masterclass. Watch it anytime you want. It's about 40 minutes, 4 steps to overcome burnout, get rid of overwhelm, and finally get your peace of mind back. Link is in the show notes. Thanks for tuning in, and I will talk to you next week. Thank you for listening to this episode of the Empowering Working Moms podcast, Real Talk with Dr. Prianca Naik. If you are ready to get unstuck and out of survival mode to live your best life, I want to invite you to book a free 30-minute consultation call with me. To get started, visit priancanaikmdcoaching.as.me. Link in the show notes.